What's up, everyone? John back from How to Man channel. Today, like I said we would be doing last week, we're going to be talking about Cigars 101. We're going to get right into it. This is probably going to be a pretty long video. There's a lot to cover. It's still going to be covering just the basics of cigars, but it's everything you need to know to get involved with cigars in a sense, as a hobby. I do cigars as a hobby. I only smoke 1 to 2 cigars a week. I really love cigars. It's kind of like enjoying nice craft beer or nice wine or something like that. There's a lot to know about what goes into a good cigar and why it's good, and then finding out the cigars that you like, yada yada yada. It's definitely really cool, and I think it's something that is picking up. Well, I wish it would pick up more steam with guys. It's a little bit harder because it's smoking. So anyway, I have a huge love of cigars. I have a 150 count humidor inside, and I made mistakes with my cigars and purchasing of my humidor, which you will hear about very soon. Also, if you want to jump around between the sections, I've got a list of the sections in the video description with links to those sections, so you can jump back and forth or skip ahead if you already know some of this stuff. That being said, we're going to get right into it. Parts of a cigar, we're going to go over that first. I've got a couple cigars here. One of them I will actually light, so that's a good idea. Maybe I'll wait. This is a really nice cigar I'll be smoking today. The Oliva V series cigar. It's full-bodied, I think. It's full-bodied anyway. I don't know a lot about my cigars. Once I found a cigar I like, I usually remember that I like it, but I can't tell you everything about it. That's just not my style. So anyway, but I've got this kind of crappy cigar I got in like a sampler. We're going to cut the sucker open in a little bit here. So the parts of a cigar, like anything else, there are lots of different parts to this thing. This is the head, where you're going to be smoking it. This is where you're going to put your mouth to smoke the smoke out. This is the foot. That's pretty obvious, I guess. If that's the head, that's the foot. We've got the cap, which is this little layering right here of wrapper. Let's see if I can get really close. And you might be able to see that there are rings on the top of there. You might not, but they're basically right here. Those are kind of important when you try to cut the cigar. This is the band, the cigar band. It tells you what, obviously the brand and the make of the cigar, things like that. And then the outside of the cigar is the wrapper. We will be talking more about that. Now let's cut the cigar open to show you what's inside. There are some parts that are inside, and it shows you kind of how a cigar is made. It's very important to know that, which we will get into in a little bit, why you kind of want to know how a cigar is made. So first of all, the wrapper is the most important part of the cigar. It's where you're going to get most of your flavor. So the wrapper, you want to check the wrapper to make sure it's nice and smooth. This one's relatively smooth, and there aren't a lot of veins. The veins are very small. You want to look for holes in the cigar, because there are cigar bugs. I don't know what they call them, cigar beetles or something. They will eat into the cigar, lay eggs, and eat the cigar. You don't want that, obviously. This one's decent, actually. It's fairly consistent in the wrapper. It has small veins. It's got a really nice texture. Just check all that stuff out. It's not probably a bad cigar. It's just not as good as like the Oliva V, which has a much better wrapper. The veins are smaller. It's just a way better smoke. So I'm going to cut open this thing with my trusty box knife here. Basically, you're going to see, if you look up real close, is the wrapper, then the binder, and then the filler. The filler being where they just fill the cigar, basically. So let's cut the sucker open real quick. I'm just going to do a very light cut through here, and hopefully I can take it off in pieces and show you exactly what is going on in here. Obviously, you don't do this with a nice cigar. So the wrapper is very thin. It's just a piece of tobacco. Okay, it's one leaf. Sometimes it can, be folded over. You can see this one's folded over. It's kind of layered a little bit, right? Again, wrapper being the best part of the cigar. The next part you're going to see here is this really not good looking part called the binder, and I wish there was a little more light out here for you to see this a little better. You can see right there, that is the binder. It's kind of a little dirtier. It's just sandwiched in there. It doesn't look pretty. The wrapper is supposed to look pretty. The binder is, it's only supposed to bind the cigar together. It's to bind the filler together. And so it doesn't need to look pretty. But if you peel the binder off, you're going to see the filler. There's going to be a little bit of, the binder is a little bit thicker than the wrapper. So I'm going to keep peeling. And you're in the filler. The filler, even nastier. It's just other parts of the leaf, tobacco leaves, filling the cigar. So they spend the most money on the wrapper. That's the best part of the cigar. That's the premium tobacco leaves, right? It's all premium if you're buying a premium cigar, but that's those are the best leaves. Then the binder, which kind of looks nasty, it's really it's for structure. And then the filler. Now they'll pick and choose the different types of leaves to get you the taste. They get the taste they want for that cigar. So you're still going to have good tobacco all through the cigar. It's just they're going to pick and choose, like maybe this middle part's Nicaraguan and the outer part is, I don't know, you wouldn't do this, but Connecticut or something like that. So they're going to mix and match and get something that has a really good smoke and a really nice flavor. Another thing to know about how the cigar is constructed is they don't want to pack it too tight. The draw is a major factor when you draw through the cigar, how easy the airflow comes through the cigar. If it's too packed, too tight, like a lot of machine rolling can get a really tight pack, you won't get a good draw, and that'll make it really hard to get smoke through the cigar, and it's pretty bad actually, and you're going to really not like that cigar probably. If it's too loose, it'll burn faster, and it won't be good. So the packing of the cigar is actually also a really big deal, and how tight the cigar is. There are a lot of different sizes of cigar. This is a Robusto, 5 inches by 50 gauge. The 50 gauge is the size of the width of the cigar. There are a lot of different sizes. Churchill's a 7 inch by 50 gauge, or is it 48 gauge? I can't remember. But the main thing to remember is it's the wrapper that counts. That's where you get all the flavor, right? So if you have a kind of a short, fat cigar, like some nub cigars, or NUB, they're about, like, I think it's 3.5 or 4 inches and a 60 gauge ring, which is really, not this fat, but you know, it's pretty fat. There's a lot more filler in that cigar and less wrapper. So most people think that's not a very good cigar, probably. Smoke one, you might like it, but what I try to a lot of times go for is like Lancero or something like that, where it's kind of a smaller gauge, but a lot of wrapper. It's a very long cigar, and so I'm getting a lot of wrapper. And from what I've found, I really like that size of cigar. Robusto is still good. Toro is still good. That's 6 inch by 50 gauge. But my favorites are the long, narrow cigars. I'm getting the best flavor out of that. So that's kind of what I look out for too. Something somebody told me once, because the filler is the cheap part. It's not the really nice part like the wrapper. The next thing we're going to talk about is cutters and how to get your cigar ready to smoke. So you're going to want to, when you cut your cigar, you're going to want to cut this cap off, and a lot of people do it with a guillotine cutter, which you can see right here. They just put it in there, cut that little piece off, and they're ready to rock. So there are a few different kinds of guillotines. This is a standard, just straight up, up-down motion. There's a V cutter, which has an angle on it, and it kind of slices from this side around to that side. Scissors, same thing. It's just it has a different handle. And then there's also a punch, which a lot of the nicer butane lighters will come with this punch, as you can see here. And what it does is punch down to the cap and just make a small hole in the cap like that, which is really nice, and that's what I usually like to do. So those are the different kinds. I don't really like the V cutter or the scissors, because sometimes it can pinch it. It can pinch the cigar. This guillotine does a pretty good job of not pinching. You need it to be really, really sharp, and I've found that a lot of guillotines, even the V's, whatever, aren't very sharp. So what I'll do first is I'll punch the cigar and then check the draw, and if the draw's good with the punch, I'm done. I'm not going to cut it again. I'm not going to cut it because the punch worked fine. Now, if I punch it, it's a nice draw, and then a little ways into the cigar it starts to get tight, because a lot of times your saliva will build up at the cap. Then I'll use the guillotine to cut off the cap. And even if it still builds up, I'll cut it again. I'll keep cutting out that wet tobacco, because that really hampers the draw. So that's pretty much all you need to know about cutters. And now that we've talked about cutters, I'm going to actually cut this one. So like I said, I'm going to go with just punch. I'm going to lick the cap first. Now, if you're using someone else's punch or cutter, cut or punch first. You don't lick it. Don't lick your cigar and then stick it on there. It's like kissing the guy, okay? Nobody likes that. It's gross, okay? It's also not very sanitary. This is my lighter, so I'm gonna lick this thing and stick it in there. I wanna dampen up that cap because I don't wanna crack the cap. If you get a crack, especially goes into the wrapper, the draw is gonna be really bad because you're not gonna have a tight seal anymore, okay? So lick it. You can see I licked it. Wait for that moisture to set into the cap a little bit, and then I'm gonna punch it. Now I'm not gonna punch all the way down. I'm just gonna punch through the cap. because again, the point here is to avoid the cap cracking. Now, if you've had your cigar in a humidor, it's less likely to crack, but it still can, and that's part of the kind of the downfall of a punch a lot of times, is cracking the cap or cracking the wrapper. So I got a good punch there, you can see, I hope anyway. There's my punch. The draw is decent. You're gonna have to play around with the draw. I can't obviously tell you how to test the draw. You just have to try it out. Let's talk about lighters. So there are a lot of different kinds of lighters. This is a triple torch butane lighter, as you can see. I don't want to fry my camera, but it's got 3, I can't really open it without turning it on, but it's got 3 torches in there, and it's butane. Butane is the preferred lighter because what you want to do with butane is you actually don't stick the lighter or the cigar in the fire of the lighter. You stick it way out here where the heat is from the lighter, and it's called toasting, and it starts to light the tobacco. It's a slow process, and you'll see it in a little bit. There are also single torch butane lighters that can be really good. They have a really solid flame, and that's the biggest thing you want, is a really stable, solid flame. And it's a really hot flame I've seen on certain ones. It's really nice. You don't want to get a regular lighter, because then if you get a regular propane lighter, I guess it would be, you have to put the fire right on the cigar. You can do that, it's just not preferred, because you don't want to char the tobacco, because it's going to make it taste bad, like ash, and you don't really want that. Now, when I light it, again, I'm going to just toast it, okay? I'm going to get it in there, and you can see kind of that the foot starts to light up a little bit. It's a little hard to do since I can't see. Now, the lighter's going to get warmer over time, so don't stick it down in there too quick. You can see it start to light it. This can take a while. Turn the cigar, make sure it's nice and even. In fact, I'm backing it off now that the lighter's getting warmer. This is going to take a little bit. Sometimes I like to have 2 lighters on me because this takes so much butane that I'll run out mid-light, and that's bad. So go ahead and get that sucker lit up. This is pretty good. Everybody has their own style and technique. This looks good. And then at the end, I'll puff it a little bit. So the way you know it's lit is when you blow on it, you should see orange all around the foot. Okay, it's pretty good. Make sure you get a nice puff on it to begin, and bam, you're done. I just lit that cigar. Wow, that's nice. This cigar has a chocolate and coffee taste, so I really like these kind of cigars. Now we're going to talk about how to fill a lighter. You can see at the bottom here, you've got that little nib in there. You probably can't see it. You want to get a can of butane, 5+ times distilled, I think it's called. And that's very clean butane at that point. They take all the impurities out of the butane, which the impurities will clog up your lighter. So you want to make sure you just hold the lighter like this, put the can down on it, push. I kind of rotate a little bit. I can hear it go in a little bit. A lot of the lighters also, does this one have one? It doesn't. That's interesting. We'll have a little gauge to show you how much butane is in your lighter. It doesn't take very long to fill it up. Another thing I'll do is if sometimes you'll get air in your butane lighter, and like when you hit it, the jets will kind of flicker, and that means you have air in your lighter. So what I'll do is when that lighter runs all the way out, when it's completely dead, is I'll turn it over and get a really tiny standard head screwdriver and just push down that nib and let all that air out. And I'll keep doing it until nothing comes out. I'll just keep doing it and keep doing it. You'll be surprised how long that air will come out. Just keep doing that. That gets all the air out of your lighter, then refill it with the butane, the can of butane, and you're good to go. I used to do it every time, but I'm not so hardcore about it now. I probably do it about once every 6 months or a year now. So we'll go over really quickly how to draw on your cigar, and I've done it a little bit. Everybody does it a little differently. The one way that I found that really helps you taste the cigar, and I'm gonna have a whole video on exactly how to do this, but we'll just do it really quickly. It's blow out slightly, then draw all the way in slowly, and then you can kind of chop your lips a little bit and get some air in there and taste it. Some people do it every time like that. I don't do that every time, but when I'm trying to taste a cigar, usually it's the first time I've had that cigar, I will do that to make sure I taste it. Just like wine, the first couple times I take a sip of that wine, I'm drinking it in a different way because I'm trying to get the maximum flavor and see what it tastes like. So it looks like this. Out. like that. That's pretty much it. The reason to blow out a little bit, especially when you first light a cigar, is can be some built up ammonia and different chemicals as the cigar ages and ferments. You want to blow those out of the cigar. So when you first light it, you want to blow that stuff out. Some people will do it, for a 1/4 inch or something before they start smoking the cigar. I don't do that, but some people do. So every time you blow out, it kind of blows out the junk and like lets you start with something fresh. So the next thing to know is, now that I'm drawing through this cigar, it's got some ash on the end. I'm actually pulling air through that ash. It's not that big of a deal, but it can change the taste of the cigar, make it taste like ash. So the way I'll do it is I like to ash a lot, and I won't wait very long, like this, maybe a little, actually a little more than this, but just to show you what I'm talking about. What I do is I don't bang the cigar to crack the wrapper right. I don't flick it, I don't do any of that. I just roll the cigar right on the edge right here. I just kind of roll that cigar and kind of get the ash off like that. Again, if you bang the cigar on the side, you could crack that wrapper and then the cigar is dead. As this cigar dries out, that wrapper is going to be a lot easier to crack than when you pull it out of your humidor and it's freshly, it's got a lot of humidity in the tobacco leaves, right? It's going to dry out, especially it's lit, now it's hot. It's all that humidity's escaping the cigar right now. So you're going to crack it if you bang it on the side like that. So that's pretty much how you ash the cigar. And when you ash it, man, this cigar is nice. I guess we could talk a little bit about how long to smoke your cigar. Some people will stop, some people won't pull the band off. They just stop when they hit the band and they throw the cigar away. I don't do that. I smoke it till it's not enjoyable anymore, really. And that's different for every cigar. Generally speaking, I'm smoking it all the way up to about right there. I want to get the max I can out of my cigars. I don't buy the super cheap ones. This one I think I got it online for $6 or $7, which is probably really expensive for me. I don't usually spend that much. This cigar in a shop would be like $12 to $15 probably. So yeah, I'll pull it down, take the band off, and then smoke it to about there. Maybe it's getting too hot or it's getting too ashy, because that ash does build up as you smoke a cigar. It's going to change the taste a lot. But some people stop midway, or they stop when they take the band off. They don't go all the way. That's fine. Do what you want to do. Find out what works for you. Again, it depends on the cigar as well. Also, I usually have a drink at hand to clean my mouth, to clean my palate of ash, because the ash builds up in your mouth. If I don't have something to drink, like usually a Pepsi or something like that, I won't even smoke a cigar, because that ash is going to build up and I'll hate the cigar. Water is okay. Some people can do that. It doesn't really work for me that well. I do it if I have to. Usually people drink whiskey or scotch with their cigars. It really goes well. It really pairs well with the cigar. Not only the flavors go well together, but the whiskey or scotch, well, scotch is whiskey, help clean your palate out, clean that ash out better. I don't know why, but it does. I usually have whiskey and Coke with my cigar, unless I'm with buddies or I'm some kind of special occasion or something like that, just because I like it. Now, the Pepsi in that drink changes the cigar, the flavor of the cigar, because the Pepsi's sweet. If you have a cigar that's supposed to be kind of sweet, like chocolatey, and you're drinking a sweet drink, it's going to change the flavor of the cigar. It's going to change the profile, okay? So if you're kind of not liking it because it's kind of too bitter or whatever it is, try to cut back on the sweetness of your drink and you'll taste more of the cigar. So the last thing to talk about, in my opinion, I mean, there's a few more topics, I'm sure, but is humidors. Humidors can be 1 or 2 videos in themselves, so it's kind of pointless to give you got to do some research. This video is probably not going to be enough, but there's a few things you need to know right off the bat that I didn't learn until after about my humidor. One of them is only buy humidors that have Spanish cedar. Spanish cedar is really good at retaining humidity and helps cigars breathe, and also helps prevent mold. I don't know if it prevents mold necessarily, but it definitely helps prevent cigar beetles, and it's just very preventative. Get Spanish cedar. Also, another thing is, don't get a humidor with too much glass in it. My humidor has a lot of glass. Reason being is, every time you have a joint, it's more humidity is going to be leaving your humidor. I have to refill the humidifiers more often than someone who doesn't have a lot of glass in their humidor, because I have a lot more of my humidity escapes. Now, it's going to escape. You do want your humidor to breathe, but you don't want it to you know, drop way below the humidity percent that you're looking for. Now, to get that percent humidity, which is supposed to be 70, that's the standard, you're going to want humidifiers. Obviously, you're going to be able to get them on a website or at a cigar shop. And you're going to want a homogrifier. I'll correct that in post if that's not correct, because I can't remember all the jargon sometimes. But that's what's going to tell you what the percent humidity is, okay? Also, kind of another rule of thumb is about 70 degrees temperature, Fahrenheit, and that's not as necessary, in my opinion, as the humidity. But another big one really is you don't want to have vastly changing temperatures all the time. It doesn't affect cigars that much. It affects wine a lot when you have changing temperatures like that. Not so much cigars. The main thing is the humidity. But that's pretty much all you need to know about humidors, at least the beginning stuff. Again, do some research. If you're just starting out, you might only want to start with a 20 or 40 cigar humidor. I started with 150 because I knew I'd buy a bunch of different kinds that I really liked, and I want to buy 10 of them or something. 20 cigar humidor is not going to be big enough for me. So again, check it out online, kind of go do some research, think about what size you want. I don't like to buy something and then upgrade later, because then I'm left with something I might not use again. Like when I bought my telescope, I bought an 8-inch Schmidt casting grain because I don't want to buy another one. I don't want to buy a scope or whatever and then, you know, 6 months down the line buy a bigger one because now I'm really into it. I just buy the biggest. If it's something I don't really like that much, I'll sell it. You know, it's not that big of a deal to me. So that's my recommendation. Do what you want. Do what you feel you need. And also, if you really like this video, please subscribe. I will be doing another video. I do one every Friday. And I'm doing these 101s to begin with so that I can start talking about that topic. I don't want to do more intermediate or advanced stuff on a topic until I've done the 101 version or the video for introducing that topic. So that's why you're seeing a bunch of 101 videos right now. Anyway, comment in the comment section, ask questions there. I will hopefully answer your questions. If I can't, I can find someone who can, or maybe do some research and look it up online. Also, check me out on Patreon. I'll be starting to post my research there. When I get into the heavier topics, I always do a lot of research, and you can get all my links to research there and places where you can read more about that topic. And if you could help me out and become a patron, that would really help. It's going to help this channel out a lot. It takes money to do this stuff, and I really want to start producing more content for you guys. So check that out. Follow me on Instagram and social media. You can get a lot of behind the scenes, what I'm doing every day, stuff like that. And that's pretty much it. Let me know what you think about this video in the comment section. And as I always say, stay frosty.